It's quite an honor and a pleasure to be here today. And let me start by saying that the European Union has been very focused in infrastructure projects such as solar parks and wind farms. These are also green infrastructures and go hand in hand with nature-based solutions like the ones we've been listening about today, vetiver, mangroves, forests. Altogether, they constitute valid complementary solutions for a common problem. Today, I shall pay some attention to the former infrastructure, so solar, wind power, renewable energies. But before that, I have some questions. Why are we talking about green infrastructure? What is green infrastructure? Why do we need it? Let me repeat some of the messages that we've heard here today. Heavy rain, floods, landslides, droughts, forest fires, hurricanes, the last more costly than the one before, loss of biodiversity. Food supplies, livelihoods, and biodiversity are under threat worldwide. And why? Because the climate is changing faster and faster, and we face an urgent need to fight climate change. We need to offset our carbon footprint, abate emissions, regenerate nature, as I think someone said already today. And geography doesn't really matter. There is only one planet Earth. Efforts have to be done globally because of our children and their children, and so on and so forth. My next slide is already there. So today, no, the one previous, thank you. So today I'm going to focus on the following topics. The Global Gateway, which is EU's new strategy for the period 21 to 27. EU grant funding. You will see in most of the slides the mention European Commission. European Commission is actually the implementing arm of the European Union. Together with the European Parliament and the European Council, these are the three most important institutions, being the Parliament and the Council political institutions where the Commission is where the money is. So we mostly do grants, and we have the European Investment Bank, which is devoted to multilateral projects and loans. I'm going to quickly mention our projects in Trinidad and Tobago. I will mention the innovation facility that my dear colleague just advertised. And I will also try to attract your attention for future funding opportunities for this period, 21-27. I'm going to try to explain how we are trying to magnify grants, multiplying effect towards green investments and green infrastructure. Let me tell you that I'm not really an expert in the Caribbean green infrastructure picture, nor much in nature-based solutions. I have a better knowledge of Trinidad and Tobago, a particular country with scarce green infrastructure, albeit some notable examples as the ones mentioned this morning, and also a big industrial hub. And I also know a little bit about renewable energy. A brief parenthesis to mention a real-life example of getting green. Ammonia production, which is one of the typical products of Trinidad and Tobago. That graphic over there, it's the process of doing green ammonia. So we have green energy, and through electrical processes, we will produce nitrogen, and finally we will be able to get to green ammonia. Trinidad and Tobago is the third largest exporter of ammonia to the European Union, not yet green ammonia. So basically what we have is that graphic, but instead of the sun and the wind turbine and the solar panels, we have gas producing electrical energy. To make the difference between what we call gray energy and green energy, we need the green power. So the importance of renewable energies into the equation. And this is an example that is going to be dear to Trinidad and Tobago, because by 2026 we expect to have the CBAM. The CBAM is the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. It's a mechanism that will try to offset the carbon prices in other origins than the European Union. And when that mechanism will be enforced, if Trinidad and Tobago is still exporting ammonia as it is today, it will be heavily taxed. Whereas if by then the energy needed to produce it will be already green, it will be exempted. So this is the difference, and in terms of economic advantages, it's quite understandable. Let me finally say that ammonia is crucial for food security because it's used mainly as a fertilizer. Well, just not too much, I hope. Please, the next slide. All right. So now we have, let me quote my biggest boss, Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission, about the global gateway. We will support smart investments in quality infrastructure, read green infrastructure, respecting the highest social and environmental standards in line with the European Union's values and standards. The global gateway strategy is a template for how Europe can build more resilient connections with the world. So this is what is now guiding our cooperation activities in the world, and we are not just talking about grants. The global gateway will be delivered through a Team Europe approach, which brings together the European Union institutions and the 27 European Union member states with their financial and development institutions, including the EIB, the European Investment Bank, and the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Very importantly, it also seeks to mobilize the private sector in order to leverage investments for a transformational impact. In particular, the European Fund for Sustainable Development, I will speak about this later, more in detail, will make available up to euro 135 billion, now it's slightly less than $135 billion, unfortunately. For me, I paid in euros. For the guaranteed investments for infrastructure projects between 21 and 27. From these, up to euro 18 billion will be made available in grant funding, which comes from the European Union budget. European financial and development finance institutions have up to euro 145 billion in planned investment volumes. My next slide, please. Can I do it? Yeah, all right. So the global gateway gets this total of 300 billion, and it's going to be used worldwide. These are grants and development loans, as said. And as you can see, the focus is in cutting edge and decisive areas such as digital, transport, health, education, and very importantly, on climate and energy. At least 35% or 105 billion euro will be devoted to the implementation of the Green Deal. The Green Deal encompasses all activities from carbon-free, carbon reduction, sequestration, abate of emissions, renewable energy, climate risk mitigation and adaptation, sustainable food security, fighting loss of biodiversity, and obviously nature-based solutions. Please, yeah, thank you. On climate and energy, because it's a dear theme for me in this talk, I want to hide that I'm very much focused in renewable energy because its impact goes far beyond energy, and it has to go hand in hand with nature-based solutions. Climate and energy are entrenched into several sustainable development goals, namely SDG 7, ensuring access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all, which has a repercussion in several other SDGs. Modern society depends on reliable and affordable energy services to function smoothly and to develop equitably. A well-established energy system supports all sectors from medicine to education to agriculture, infrastructure, communications, and high technology. Intensive development patterns have historically relied on inexpensive and energy-dense fossil fuels, which also happen to be the primary source of greenhouse gas emissions, contributing to climate change. However, new clean technologies are available that can reorient development along a more sustainable trajectory. This isn't an exclusive job of the European Union or governments. It's a societal necessity. The private sector can accelerate the transition to an affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy system by investing in renewable energy resources, prioritizing energy-efficient practices, and adapting clean energy technologies and infrastructure. Also, with investment in R&D, businesses can innovate and pioneer new technologies that change the status quo of the global energy systems, becoming the center of climate change solutions. Please, next slide. I will now speak a little bit about our traditional mechanisms. I will focus on grants. The European Commission itself only does grants. And in the case of Trinidad and Tobago, we have national programs ongoing that were funded by the framework 2014-2020, and they are still undergoing. For the Caribbean, we will have regional programs for the period 21-27. These are under the Global Gateway, which was already mentioned. Grants are the result of policy dialogue with national authorities. We have 140 delegations worldwide and cooperation activities virtually everywhere, thus grants in most of them, including high-level income countries such as Trinidad and Tobago. Please, next slide. We have currently 2 projects directly funding man-made green infrastructure. A solar park, I think I've already spoken too much, so I will try to be quick. A solar park at Piarcos Airport, which construction just started and we hope to be concluded by early 2023. And we have installed 12 independent solar installations in remote areas that were either not connected to the grid or with connection problems. I will just mention one of the 12 because it's an example with visibility. You know about nature seekers and the turtles in Toco. Well, we hopefully have replaced their generator by solar panels. And this is a project that not only gives emphasis on renewable energy, but also in biodiversity. And we have right now 1 project that can potentially fund green infrastructure, and I'll dwell on it a little bit later. That's my colleague has already mentioned it, the Innovation Challenge Facility. And projects that are not green infrastructure on its essence, but are equally fundamental and of paramount importance in the preparation of infrastructure projects. For example, we have the call for proposals for the civil society organizations, which will open in January, and we expect to provide at least 6 grants with a maximum of $300,000 each, and they require the joint venture between 2 CSOs, at least 2. More details can be provided. Also importantly, we are delivering technical assistance to the government of Trinidad and Tobago. We have a strategy for wind power being drafted right now in collaboration with the Ministry of Energy. And this is the first stage for getting more ambitious in terms of wind. Probably a wind resource assessment would follow, and if the wind is there, and I hope so for the sailors, bigger, large-scale investments could come in this area. We also have a project ongoing with the Ministry of Public Utilities on energy savings, which is part of the broader field of energy efficiency. In this case, it's a training program for energy savings in 21 governmental buildings. As you can see, technical assistance can have a direct objective on preparing greening investments. Yeah, and I will not dwell very much in detail. I will go quickly on these. This is the current call for proposals in the innovation program. The Innovation Challenge Fund will be a competitive, demand-driven fund offering grant financing for innovation, primarily targeting small and medium enterprises, SMEs, but for the current call that is open, also larger firms. Into this program, the EU has contributed with 8.6 million euros, and it's ongoing, and it will end by 2025. The partners are the government, through the Ministry of Planning and Development, the Inter-American Development Bank and the IDB Lab, Cariri, BETA, Eurochamp. I believe my colleague Marie-Louise Norton-Murray is in the room. She can provide you more details on the innovation facility. So I will quickly go through these next slides. No, I can't. Can you move it? Yeah. All right. So this is just a pie chart with a sector breakdown of the previous call for proposals, which is now being, the contracts are now being signed. And as you can see, it covers many different areas, but relevant areas for what we have been discussing today in terms of green infrastructure and related areas. Please, the next slide. If you will be interested in knowing more, you can go to the Innovation Challenge Facility platform in the CGIC website, and you should follow the instructions carefully, because there's some bureaucracy and red tape involved. But in the end, the efforts may pay the difference. And as my colleague from the Caribbean Biodiversity mentioned today, reading important instructions is very important, because very often details make the difference. Please, the next slide. Right, so this is just quickly the calendar that we are waiting now to observe. The call has opened on the 28th September, and the deadline to submit the concept notes, and this is important because there are only concept notes, 5-page maximum. It will be on the 23rd November. There will be a screening process, and there will be projects invited to submit detailed propositions, and then the process goes on, expecting to have the contract signed by May 2023. Next, please. All right, so important future opportunities in terms of EU funding. We will have regional programs such as Euroclima. Euroclima targets particularly this area. There are others. I will not mention them because I'm running out of time. The next slide, please. All right, and I will conclude briefly saying that grants, very often, they can have a multiplier effect. So grants, if used at the initial stage of an investment project, can fund the preliminary activities such as feasibility studies, environmental impact assessments, and so forth. And then if these studies are positive, then they can put together a bankable project that can go to multilateral international financing institutions for funding. And my last slide is the next one, and it's more a pledge, a message that I think everybody here shares. Quite a blunt message. The Paris Agreement in 2015 is more than a political declaration, a political agreement between nearly all nations. It is a lifebuoy for humanity. People need to help states implementing their national determined contributions. Green infrastructure is a means of guarantee a future for the generations to come, although our generation is already feeling the impact of climate change on the skin. This must be an unstoppable process. It has to, as the alternative means sinking the ship. So the message is not just about investing in green infrastructure or using natural-based solutions. As far as energy is concerned, the greener kilowatt of energy is the one that was not used. So energy is essential for life, as we know, but energy saving should orient our life. Switch off the lights and AC when you're not in the room. Recycle, eat less meat, use your clothes longer. buy less things that you won't give a proper use. Think that all these are just small steps for man, but altogether one giant leap for mankind. Thank you.